Welcome to another episode of the What We're Watching podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jeni, and today we're talking about The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I have beef with this title, first off. Like, that was so hard to say.
Yeah, I hate the title. Hate it. I always hated it. It's so long. It's too long.
Suzanne Collins, it's like she did The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, Mockingjay, all very simple. And then with The Ballad of Songbirds and...
Like, after watching it, I guess I get it, but I did not get it until the end of the movie. As it was wrapping up, I guess I was like, oh, I guess I get the name now, but it was not obvious to me.
Are snakes a thing in... Because obviously, like, songbirds, yes, a thing throughout all of the Hunger Games, but are snakes? I can't remember.
I think the snakes is supposed to be Dr. Gall's snakes.
Right.
Like how she ends up winning the games. Spoiler alert.
But like in Hunger Games, Mockingjay, Catching Fire, all of those, there's no snake symbolism, right?
I don't think so.
It's all songbirds, mockingjays, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Well, I have beef with it. I hate it.
So this movie came out kind of a while ago, but I saw it probably over a little bit before Christmas maybe, and I feel like it's still kind of gaining steam and people are still talking about it. But you saw it right when it came out, right?
Yeah, I saw it right when it came out. I think it was like mid-November, right before Thanksgiving, and I was obsessed with it and I needed to talk to someone about it, and now I'm a little worried because now it's been long enough that I'm like, okay, I hope that I still remember how I felt when I saw it and desperately needed to talk to someone.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad I've been waiting for this moment.
Yeah. It was so good. Were you a big Hunger Games fan? Like, did you read the books or were you into the movies?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I went to all of the midnight premieres of the movies, read all the books. How about you?
I didn't read the books, but I was a big fan of all the movies and also went to the midnight premieres and loved it.
And have you still not read the books? Because you read this book.
I haven't finished this book. I've read part of this book, and then I just caved and went and saw the movie because I didn't want to wait until it was out of theaters. And I have not read the other ones, but I really like this book, and I've heard that this is the, like, weakest or, like, the less exciting book of all of them, and so that makes me want to read the other ones, so maybe.
Yeah, it was interesting for me because as someone who is so into the Hunger Games, when this book came out, I was like, I want nothing to do with this. It had been so many years since I had read Mockingjay, and I was like, why are you coming out with Snow's story? There are so many things you could do, and I do not care about him. I do not want to know anything about him. My mind has changed, obviously, since seeing the movie, so now I do have the book, and I'm going to read it. But yeah, I just, like, wasn't feeling it. I was like, ugh, I don't care about the 10th Hunger Games. I don't care about his backstory. I don't care why he hates Katniss. Do you know what I mean?
Yep, totally. I totally agree. I was not that, even when we saw the first trailer, I was like, I don't know if I'm super excited about the story because I just hate him.
Yeah.
And it just felt like kind of a trend thing. Like, I feel like we're getting a lot of villain origin stories in the last 5 or so years, maybe, like with Joker, Maleficent. Like, I just think we're getting a lot of those. And I was just kind of And then I started reading the book, or I started listening to the audiobook, and it's so good. And I was like, oh, I get it. The story is a really good one.
Yeah, it's not the prequel that we asked for, but it's the one we needed.
Totally. Okay, so the logline for this movie is Coriolanus Snow mentors and develops feelings for the female District 12 tribute during the 10th Hunger Games, which is way to be succinct.
Yeah.
One sentence.
Yeah, that's like probably one of the shortest loglines that we've read.
I know.
But a more complicated movie.
Very.
3 hours. Wasn't it 3 hours?
Yeah, maybe 3.5. 3. No, I don't know. It was really long.
It didn't feel long, though. It wasn't like an Oppenheimer level where I was like, okay, get this movie over with.
Agreed.
I was into it.
I normally don't like movies that are that long, and this one, it did not feel like it at all. It was so good.
But I did think it was over after the games were over.
Yeah. It was interesting to me because I had only read the first, like, third maybe of the book, or less maybe. And once we had passed the point that I had read, it was very clear to me that the movie's going to go way past the books, because I was like, we're already through everything that I have read. And then the games are going to start, but we're like 20 minutes into the movie. So there's so much that's going to happen, which I had no idea. I thought the story was just going to be the games, the way that the original Hunger Games was. Not the case.
So this is obviously based on the book by Suzanne Collins. It's a Hunger Games prequel. And I didn't know this, but Suzanne Collins used to be a children's TV writer. She did Clarissa Explains It All with Melissa Joan Hart, Oswald, Little Bear, and Wow Wow Wubsy.
I had no idea. What an interesting shift to go from cute children's stories to the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Just dead children. Huh. That's funny.
And I guess at the end of 2019, she called up Francis Lawrence and Nina Jacobson, who are the director and producer. And she was like, surprise, I'm almost done with another book. And they thought there were no plans for any other books after Mockingjay. I don't think there were. I think this was just like an afterthought. But it's so intentional. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is such a good prequel that really like lays the groundwork for the series that I'm like, she must have known a lot of this stuff in her head first, you know?
Yeah. I imagine she did. It kind of reminds me of like J.K. Rowling and who was the other author that we talk about a lot? Oh, Stephanie Meyer. Yeah. How they have so much extra information in their brain that never makes it into a book that they end up making other things with it. Like even the like Fantastic Beasts books or the book and then the movies that J.K. Rowling wrote and then this prequel and then Stephanie Meyer's extra books. It just feels like they just have such a big world in their head. It doesn't surprise me that once the main story is finished, they're like, wait, I know so much more about this. It's hard to get rid of, you know?
Yeah, when you've spent so much time in that world, how could you not keep coming up with ideas?
Yeah. An interesting part of this movie is the focus on costumes, I thought, especially Lucy Gray's. And it's that way in the books, too. They like talk about her outfits a lot because it's very out of the ordinary for a District 12 citizen, the stuff that she wears. And I read that in an interview with Vogue, the costume designer named Trish Somerville said that the corset with Lucy Gray's rainbow dress, she had like a rainbow dress was like her iconic outfit. And on the corset, they put Katniss and Primrose flowers on it to like nod to Prim and Katniss from The Hunger Games, which I thought was cool.
Oh, I love that. There were so many Easter eggs like that throughout the whole movie, and I really liked that they paid tribute to the future movie, the previous movies. Yeah, the previous movies that take place in the future.
I feel like there's a lot in the story that like ties it to what happens later. Like even, I think her song, the song that Lucy Gray sings, or one of them, the song that she sings in The Hunger Games, I think, is the same song that Katniss, I think, gets in trouble for singing, I think.
The Hanging Tree?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. I was so excited when she started singing that in this one. And that's the origin of the song, which is crazy to me.
Oh.
Because that song is about what happens at the Hanging Tree in this movie. And so for it to have been passed along through generations to Katniss, I think is super interesting.
And that makes sense why I'm sure Snow was the one that outlawed it, right? Isn't it was it outlawed or was it just...
I don't remember.
Maybe I'm making that up.
No, it might have been. It totally might have been. It's been a long time since I've seen The Hunger Games or read the books, and I would love to go back now.
Yeah, it really makes me want to go back and watch them.
We should do them on the podcast. That'd be so fun.
Yeah, I would love that.
I was on TikTok, and I saw some reviews for this movie that were really unhinged, and so I went and looked them up myself on Letterboxd, and I just feel like we have to take a moment to read them because they're really funny and encapsulate the vibe of the movie, I think, and the reception of the movie. Or at least what I've seen on the internet. So we can take a moment to just be silly and laugh at some of these.
Let's do it.
This review says, never trust a man during his buzz cut era. Another one, men have one bad breakup in high school and make it everyone's problem for the rest of their life. And this one, because Tom Blyth is so beautiful. Caught myself getting upset when the bad guy I know is bad turns out to be bad.
I felt that.
In his buzz cut era, I was like, ooh, I did not know he wasn't naturally blonde.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, he looks great blonde. I liked the bleached buzz cut. It was it. It was
giving Pete Davidson in that era, but like less grungy.
Yeah, no, totally.
This one, speaking of the buzz cut, Yassified Eminem enters his reputation era. And this one, if villain bad, why sexy? Have you seen anything on TikTok about Jason Schwartzman's representation as the
announcer,
the commentator? Yeah. I hear a lot of people saying Caesar Flickerman from The Hunger Games is cunty. Like, how he'll just turn around and he'll be smiling.
Yeah.
And so people on TikTok will go and they'll recreate that Caesar Flickerman vibe where he turns around and smiles. And it's just super extra.
That's really funny.
So Jason Schwartzman did the same thing in this movie. And this review says, the director yelled cut, but Jason Schwartzman heard cunt.
Yeah, he was maybe my favorite character.
He was. Mm-hmm. He sucked. He was so terrible, but...
Mm-hmm. So entertaining.
All right, and then I think I have one more. Men will creative direct dystopian Fortnite before going to therapy.
Yeah, so all the men in this movie? Just all of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Except Sejanus.
Sejanus is king. We love him.
Yeah.
Anyway, those were some unhinged reviews of the movie.
I love those. All accurate. Right on the money. Okay, should we talk about the cast?
Absolutely.
Okay, we have Rachel Zegler. Zegler? Do you know how to say it?
I say Zegler, but I don't know.
Okay, Zegler.
She was named after Rachel from Friends, which is so cute.
That's cute, yeah.
And she was like, people are like, no, there's no way that you're young enough that you were named after Rachel. But yes, she was.
Aw.
Friends is that old now, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe it. So I first saw her in West Side Story. I think that was the first big project she did, which is wild because that was such a huge, huge movie and such an iconic story and directed by Steven Spielberg. Like, wild that was, I think, her first big project. She also did Shazam, and she's going to be Snow White, which I think a lot of people know because of the backlash that she got from Snow White. Did you hear about that?
A little bit, but can you tell me more?
Yeah, so what I have gathered, and I kind of remember this happening at the time, but like I did a little bit of research on it since then, is she made some comments about the original Snow White story. I think she was doing an interview, just like the press, about her getting cast. And she made some comments about the original movie being weird and like antiquated and how she like never really wanted to watch it as a kid. And I think the hardcore like original movie Disney fans were pissed about that. And she also said this quote, which I'll read it and you can tell me what you think. She said, "I just mean that it's no longer 1937. We absolutely wrote a Snow White that she's not going to be saved by the Prince Charming and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's going to be dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be and that her late father told her she could be as she was fearless, fair, brave, and true."
So I feel like she's just saying they updated it and made it more modern.
Yeah.
But I can see why people were upset. They're like, okay, you're playing Snow White, this beloved character, and you're trash talking her.
Have some respect.
Yeah.
I think that was the attitude, which I don't know if that was it, because it felt like the backlash was bigger than just her saying that, because like I don't actually think any of that is a bad thing to say. I didn't watch the interview, so like I don't know if her like attitude or body language was like irritating, but I feel like I got like Jennifer Lawrence vibes from this like pseudo cancellation, like backlash towards her. People were just like, she's annoying and I'm tired of her, get her out of my face, basically. But it seems like that has really turned around since the Hunger Games came out. I feel like this has been like the fastest 180 we've seen, which I'm glad because I think she's so talented and I loved her in this movie. So I'm happy that people are back on Team Rachel.
Yeah, and I think she just comes across so kind and precious in the interviews, and people are like, oh, she must be protected at all costs now.
Yeah.
Because now we realize she's actually kind of cool and we like her. The internet is so weird.
I know.
I didn't know this while watching the movie, but I feel like this is very common knowledge now. Her boyfriend is Josh Andres Rivera, who plays Sejanus.
I had no idea about this until I was researching
Until
the
now?
movie. Yeah. Until I was researching it today. I had no clue.
I saw a bunch of videos of them on set just being cute and passing each other notes back and forth and things like that.
Cute.
I know.
That's cute.
She was on Instagram yesterday. She posted a story where she was wearing a shirt with his face all over it, and it said Sejanus on it.
Aww.
It was so cute.
That's cute.
So she was a big fan of the Hunger Games, and she was actually the first choice for Lucy Gray. The director had seen her in West Side Story and was like, oh, she'd be perfect for this. But she felt like she couldn't jump to another big project after filming Snow White because she filmed that during COVID. It was very isolating, and yeah, she was just like, I don't think I could really handle that. Meanwhile, they cast Josh as Sejanus, not knowing that he was her boyfriend, which I think is just crazy, but he was perfect for Sejanus. They cast him, and then Rachel's agent called and said that Rachel was starting to reconsider. They were like, yeah, we're definitely still interested.
Huh.
And then there wasn't an official audition, but they did do a chemistry test over Zoom, of all things, with Tom Blyth.
Huh.
And they had chemistry over Zoom.
Huh.
How?
I have so many questions about that entire story. Like, I never would have pictured her in this role after West Side Story. Did you see West Side Story?
No.
Okay. She just like, and maybe I'm misremembering this, but she came across to me as like so sweet and like, I guess that's not the point. That's not the point of the story. It's not that she's like sweet and proper, but like I had not pegged her as this like outspoken, headstrong character that Lucy Gray is. And reading the book before I saw the movie, I was like, I do not know if I'm going to like her in this. It's like, seems like a weird pick reading the book, but she crushed it. So like, obviously I'm not a casting director, so they did a great job. I just like can't believe that's her boyfriend and this is how this has happened because they were both in West Side Story together.
Oh, they were.
Which I also didn't realize. He is like one of the main characters.
I didn't know that.
And I think that they both pretty much got their start with that movie. So that makes me also happy that they're kind of like going through this together. It's cool.
Did they start dating after that or before that?
I don't know, actually. I assumed that it was because of that movie, like that they had met on set and spent time together, but I actually don't know.
Yeah, let us know if you know.
Yeah.
Also, I love this fact, but all of her performances in the movie were live. They weren't pre-recorded, so there was no lip syncing going on. It was all live.
Cool.
And I think that's why it felt authentic. Like, it felt real.
That's really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that never happens.
Never. I wonder how many takes they had to do. But I can always tell in a movie when they aren't actually singing, when they're just, like, moving their lips. I'm like, at least, like, fake sing, and they'll, like, cut out your singing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I love that.
Go Rachel.
Okay, Tom Blyth. He is actually English, but he lives in New York and went to Juilliard. He is like speculated to be in this private relationship. I don't think he's ever confirmed it, but there's like a couple photos of them together and people think that he's dating this theater director named Britt Burke, which I looked her up and she has like 1,700 followers on Instagram and like lives in New York and is a theater director.
Okay.
So I love that for them.
I want to see pictures of them together.
Yeah, there's a couple.
I don't know why, but like he became everybody's obsession after this.
You know, it like makes me scared for their relationship.
A little bit. I don't know if you've seen the posts that are like talking about, what's his name? Conrad from Somewhere I Turned Pretty.
Is it Chris? No.
Chris Briney.
Chris Briney. It is Chris.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, there's like videos that are like, I could not be his girlfriend because when he became like this it boy and then it's like all these women are fawning over him, like, no.
And he has a normal girlfriend, right? Like a not famous girlfriend.
I thought she was an actress though, but like just not famous yet.
You're right. I think that's true. Yeah. That would be tough. Just not even the like girls fawning over him because that's a whole separate thing, but like the difference in fame level, like if you're both just trying to hack it and then one person explodes and the other person doesn't, I imagine that would be really difficult in a partnership.
It's like that guy from The Bear. What's his name?
Jeremy Allen.
Alan
No.
White.
Is that him?
Jeremy Allen White, yeah.
Yeah.
He and his wife or girlfriend, baby mama, they split up pretty recently as soon as he started getting famous. And it's like,
Yeah.
ooh,
I know.
awkward.
I think it's pretty common.
Yeah. Well, Tom's audition tape blew everyone else's out of the water, apparently. They hadn't heard of him before, but they were like, ooh, that's him.
Cool.
And he really does look like he could be Donald Sutherland's younger self, I think. And it must be hard to play the young version of a character who's already well-known and such a great actor like that.
Yeah.
But he did great. And then he and Rachel on set, they made playlists for their characters, which I thought was really cute.
That is cute.
The first one on his playlist is Money, Power, Glory by Lana Del Rey. And I'm just like picturing young President Snow, like
listening to Lana Del Rey. Incredible.
And then we have Hunter Schafer, who plays Tigress.
I love Hunter Schafer.
I love her.
I want her to be in everything. I want a movie about Tigress after this. I'm like, Tigress is actually the one that we should get a story on, not President Snow. Or give me another one.
Agree.
Yeah, I love her. She plays Jules in Euphoria. I feel like that's probably what everybody knows her from. Although, I didn't realize this, but she's a visual artist. So she like draws and paints and does watercolor and makes comics and stuff. She went to the University of North Carolina School of the Arts to like study art.
Oh, cool.
And was never an actor until she did Euphoria. That was her first thing.
Wow, that's crazy to me because she seems like someone who went to Juilliard. You
Agreed.
know what I mean? She has that energy.
1,000%, yeah. She's such a talented actress that I like. Yeah, it's shocking to me that that was her first project because she's so good in Euphoria, and also Euphoria is so intense and she's such a big character. But I guess Euphoria did that with a lot of people. I think a lot of the cast in Euphoria had never done any other projects.
Mm-hmm.
She also is a trans woman, which she plays one in Euphoria, so that makes sense. I knew that from Euphoria. And I read in an interview that she likes for people to know that because she doesn't feel like she's a cis woman, obviously. And she's a big LGBTQIA plus advocate. And something I learned researching her is that she was actually a huge, huge advocate before she was ever famous, like before she ever did any acting. And that is actually kind of how she, I don't know if that's how she got into it, but that's certainly how she gained some like public figure status, which I had no idea. But she started transitioning in high school by taking hormone blockers, and she was supported by her family, which I thought this was cool. Her dad is a pastor and her parents were very supportive.
Oh, great.
I think she's from North Carolina, so we love to hear that. We love to hear a like Southern religious family being supportive.
Yeah.
She started advocating from a really young age, I think because she started transitioning in high school, and her family also all advocated. So they did a lot of protesting in North Carolina. Her family actually protested North Carolina's House Bill 2, which is now repealed, and that's what banned trans people from using school and state bathrooms. And her whole family was like very active in their community, like protesting. And so she was interviewed a lot, like on the news and in Teen Vogue a few times. She was like on Teen Vogue's 21 under 21 list because of her advocacy work. And she like interviewed Hillary Clinton. She wrote articles for Vogue. So it was just cool. Like she was doing a lot of that stuff before she became a model, which was before she became an actor. I think she's like 25 or something, 26.
Wow. Excuse me.
Just a whole life, multiple lives before.
Wow. Oh, that makes me love her even more.
I know.
She's busy. She's busy out here.
I know.
And I love that they cast her as a cis woman in this. Like, it's great for her to also play trans women, like in Euphoria, but for them to cast her, she's perfect for the role.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not even a question. It's not even brought up. They didn't change Tigress's character at all. I thought that was really great.
Me too. Yeah, I liked that. She did such a perfect job and was like such the perfect pick for it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think they could have tried to tweak it, but they just didn't need to, and I liked that. Okay, we pretty much already talked about Josh, who plays Sejanus. He was in West Side Story. This is another one of his few projects, kind of like Rachel. For some reason in my head, and I don't have research to back this up, but maybe it's true, I feel like they maybe did theater before, because I want to say they live in New York, and like, especially Rachel's like singing ability, I'm just like, I would not be surprised if if that is the type of acting they were doing before they got into film together in West Side Story, especially because West Side Story is a musical play, you know? And they've been together for over 2 years. They just had their 2-year anniversary in October. So it's like almost 2.5, which I love.
They're so cute.
I know.
And then we have Viola Davis, who plays Dr. Gall. I love her. I love her so much.
Mm-hmm.
Has she been in anything else we've talked about yet? We've talked about her, but I just don't know if that was just because.
I feel like she was because we talked about her, but I don't know, actually. Maybe not. Maybe we just talked about her. I love her.
Yeah, maybe she just came up because she's amazing and I love her too.
Yeah.
She was the director, Francis Lawrence's first choice for Dr. Gall, and he had to kind of convince her because she wasn't super familiar with the Hunger Games franchise. So he had to explain to her what the main themes are and kind of get her on board. And then she did get on board. And I think she said the prosthetic nose was like the hardest part for her. She hated it.
I did not know she was wearing a prosthetic nose.
Yeah, you can tell. If you go back and look, you'll be able to tell.
Okay. Wild.
But yeah, and I think she had some other, because she had contacts on too, didn't she?
Yeah, she had contacts and I think a wig.
Yeah. I found this really interesting. Actors usually like to find the good in the character, especially if they're playing a villain. But Viola Davis said she did not find any good in Dr. Gall when she read the book. She was like, usually I like to do that, but in the book I just couldn't find any good in her. And so she said that was actually really fun to play Dr. Gall because she couldn't find any humanity in her. So she just kind of got to revel in the fact that she was truly evil.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of cool.
That is fun. I was kind of surprised to see her in the preview at first because I feel like it's kind of rare that you see huge name, really well-respected actors and actresses in franchises. But then I remember that she's in Suicide Squad. She's been in all the Suicide Squad movies.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, okay, maybe she just likes, to be on Team Evil sometimes. But reading the book, I would not have pictured Viola Davis because Dr. Gall to me, and maybe this was just the way that the narrator was reading her character, I was imagining a withering, evil, old, witchy scientist. Less this very headstrong, Viola Davis just plays strong, her voice and her presence is just very strong. I don't have another word. You know what I mean? She's just that's not, I was expecting Dr. Gall to be so cuckoo, not well, not here, not with us at all. And I imagined that as grandma, the evil grandma. Just kind of just fragile and not in her mind. It was kind of what I was expecting.
Was that kind of how the book set her up?
I don't even know if the book described her that way. I honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, it's just I think this is probably just the narrator's voice struck that image up for me. I think Viola Davis says this one time in the movie, but Dr. Gall's milk and cookies thing, or milk and crackers, I need to go eat my milk and crackers. That's something that Dr. Gall in the book says a lot more often. So she just comes across as this loony, not in touch with reality, almost in one of the last Harry Potter movies, they go to Luna Lovegood's dad's house.
Yeah.
Almost like him, but in female version and evil is what I was expecting. And so Viola Davis was just not that, but watching her in it, she was perfect.
Yeah. Well, I did hear in the other movies, kind of what they did was they would find up-and-coming actors, like Jennifer Lawrence at the time. I guess Josh Hutcherson could be considered up-and-coming at the time. And then they would pair them with, Donald Sutherland, or who plays Haymitch. Why is his name not coming to mind?
Oh, Woody Harrelson?
Woody Harrelson, yes. So they did that, and they intentionally wanted to do that in this movie, too, where they had Tom Blyth and Rachel Zegler and Sejanus, that's just his name now, and Josh Rivera, who are just up and coming. Yeah, they've been in some stuff, but you wouldn't maybe recognize them. And then they've got Viola Davis, Peter Dinklage, Jason Schwartzman, these big, big names paired with them. So I like that was intentional.
Me too. I thought it was a really good balance. Yeah, I like that they did that on purpose.
Me too. Speaking of, we have Peter Dinklage, who we've talked about many times, I feel like.
Yeah.
Has he only been in the Elf episode? We've mentioned him more times. I just can't remember.
We've definitely talked about him more. He might have only been in Elf. No, I feel like he was in something else, but maybe it was just Elf. I don't know.
Yeah, because I feel like we've brought him up many times on the podcast. So if you guys remember, let us know, because we don't. But yeah, he plays Dean Highbottom. I thought he crushed. He did so great.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. No notes.
And then we have Jason Schwartzman, who we've actually talked about on the podcast before, too. He plays Lucky Flickerman, the announcer of the Hunger Games. And in The Princess Diaries, we talked about him because he is Michael from The Princess Diaries' brother in real life.
Oh, you're right.
Because Michael is Robert Schwartzman, his brother.
Okay, this makes sense because I was looking him up and he is another one of the Nicolas Cage, Coppola cousins. And I was like, wow,
Yes.
everyone is related to them.
Yeah.
But it's just the same family.
It's the same dude we talked about last time. Yeah.
Got it. I did not even put that together at all. Also, while we were watching this, I thought that this was Stanley Tucci, like CGI'd to look younger.
Why does he look like him in this movie?
Identical. Well, Stanley Tucci is the announcer later, isn't he?
He's Caesar Flickerman, yeah.
Okay, Caesar Flickerman. Okay. I wasn't sure if that was like if that was supposed to be like his son later. I guess it would be because it was so long.
Son or grandson or something, yeah.
Yeah, I just assumed that it was supposed to be the same person and this was a young version and then he got older, kind of like Snow.
Yeah.
But no. Anyway, yeah, so I was like, oh, Stanley Tucci, they just like did the thing, you know, like sometimes they do this to Tom Hanks, I feel like in movies, like make them look younger.
Yeah.
Nope, different guy, but looks identical, looks and sounds identical.
Yeah, so funny.
Okay, shall we get into the recap?
Oh my gosh, yes, I'm so excited.
Also, we're going to do our best here, guys. We saw this movie. I saw this movie almost a month ago. Jeni saw it a month and a half ago. And this is all from memory because there's not just full write-ups of the plot online. So if we miss something, let us know.
Yeah, Megan did a really good job here. She took one for the team by trying to remember because I just have no memory of movies after I see them unless I like write down word for word what happened, which sometimes I do for our podcast. So yeah, good job. This was impressive.
I did not think that I would be able to recap it. And I just like went into a trance. I like went to a coffee shop, put my headphones on and just like typed for like an hour. Because I was just like, and then this happened. And then I think this happened. And for some reason, it just came.
Wow.
But if things are out of order or this is completely wrong, don't tell me.
You'll get the picture of what happened if you forgot like I did.
Yeah. It will spring your memory if you either like read the book a while ago or saw the movie a while ago or haven't seen it yet, but you like the Hunger Games and you didn't catch it in theaters. This will fill you in. So we kick the movie off and we see Coriolanus and Tigress as little kids. And the point of this scene is to paint the picture of what the capital was like right after the war, or maybe right at the end of the war. And we see them and like the entire capital is just destroyed. Like there's rubble everywhere, there's bodies everywhere, they see cannibalism happening. And it's just very dark. Like the colors, the literal colors in the movie are very dark. And we see them run home to their house to see their grandmam, their grandmother. And they find out that Coriolanus' dad died, I think in a battle, or maybe was killed by a rebel or something. So we get that news. So basically it just paints the picture of things are bad. We're taken all the way back to when the war happened. Nothing is good for anybody, including the Snows. And then we flash forward to like the first present day scene where Coriolanus is a teenager. I think he's a senior at the academy. So he's like the equivalent of a senior in high school. And he wakes up looking for Tigress because Tigress is supposed to have this special shirt for this big day.
So at the very last minute when he's like freaking out, Tigress comes in with his shirt and with custom buttons that she made. And like we get this sense that she's into fashions, she can sew. This comes into play in the later movies as we find out what happens to her, which also I love. I love that this is the Tigress that we see later in Mockingjay and that we get her backstory and that she's related to Snow and then it makes sense what she does later. And I think that's so perfect. But anyway, the Snows are not rich. They barely have enough food. And so they're keeping up these appearances that they are rich because they used to be, but they lost all their money. And so this shirt that Tigress has like done up for Corio she's just fashioned it to look like it's nicer than it is, right?
Exactly. Yep. And so we find out that the reason that she made him this nice shirt and the reason it's a big day is because it's the day that the Plinth Prize is being announced. And that's a prize that goes to a senior at the academy every year. And it's enough money that it would give the Snows the money that they need to live the way that they want to and for Coriolanus to be able to go to the university and to like start his career and actually become this sort of like noble person in the capital that he wants to be, this like person of prominence. I think even Tigress makes a joke about him becoming the president of Pan Am.
Great foreshadowing.
Yes.
But we don't want it.
Yeah.
You know what I just found, because I didn't read the book, the entire movie, I was like, what the heck is this guy's name? What the heck is his name? Because they kept saying Coriolanus, and I was like, are they saying Cornelius? Like, what are they saying? And they would say it so fast that I was just like, I don't know this guy's name.
And a lot of times people call him Corio.
And that's what I was like, where did Corio come from if his name is Cornelius? I was so confused. It wasn't until after the movie was over that I like looked up how his name was spelled, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they all have funky names in the Capitol. So we see Coriolanus walk through the Capitol to school, and it's the same Capitol that we saw in the flashback at the very beginning. It's still kind of in recovery, but it looks significantly better than it did in the flashback, but still nothing like what we see in the later movies, because this movie takes place the year of the 10th Hunger Games. And I think the year that Katniss is in the Hunger Games, it's like the 74th or something.
You're right.
So it's a big jump in time. So it kind of like makes sense that things aren't at 1,000 yet. And when he gets to school, we meet all of his friends, including Sejanus, who is the son of the Plinth family. He is Sejanus Plinth. And that family, we learn, comes from District 2 and moved to the capital. And they're extremely wealthy. And he funds the Plinth Prize, the dad of the family. And you can see that Sejanus like doesn't feel like he totally fits in, because he is technically a district kid, even though his family lives in the capital now and is very prominent there. And we meet his other friends, and Corio, like you can tell, is like trying to show that he is just like them, and talks about like their maid and their cook and all this stuff, when really he's like, I think he's like sneaking food off of like the table or something. So it's just like kind of sad. It like made me sad for him.
Yeah. And then we have Dean Highbottom come in, and he is the founder of the Hunger Games. He gets up to make an announcement, which the kids think is for the prize. But instead he talks about how no one's watching the Hunger Games, it's failing, it's depressing to watch. So rather than give out the prize, the students will start mentoring the tributes to make them more appealing and likable, so that the citizens will want to root for them, which is so messed up, but is the foundation of the Hunger Games that we know from Katniss's era.
Yeah, it was weird to hear them talk about the Hunger Games like not doing well and people not caring about it, because we're used to the Hunger Games of like, it is the event of the year and everyone from the Capitol is like dressed up and pays lots of money, I think, to like sit in boxes, and they have parties to watch it, and like
they bet on them. Yeah.
And that's just not the case.
Remember in District 12, Katniss talks about how like all of the families, they could be starving or whatever, but they all have a TV set because they're mandated to watch the Hunger Games. Like, I think it's really interesting that back in year 10, nobody had to watch it, so they didn't, because it was gruesome and they didn't want to see kids kill each other. But it's about to turn around. The best mentor will win the prize. So Corio is just like devastated here, because he is really banking on this prize, and now there's a whole other step to it.
And so once they find out that they're going to be mentors, they watch the reaping. So they're sitting watching the reaping in their like classroom auditorium kind of thing. And Sejanus gets assigned to the boy from District 2, who we find out used to be his classmate, because Coriolanus congratulates him on getting the pick of the litter, and Sejanus reminds him that he is part of that litter, which this is an iconic line from the book. And it just makes me sad. But it is funny that, not funny, but it's interesting that all the kids in the Capitol just think Sejanus is like this like weak little baby. Because they're just like, buck up, dude, you got lucky here. But Sejanus just like hates the entire thing. Like, hates the entire like foundation of the Capitol, hates the Hunger Games, doesn't want to be involved, and you can tell in his reaction. Meanwhile, Coriolanus gets the girl from District 12, who's Lucy Greybeard, and that's arguably the worst pick, because 12 is one of the poorest districts. They're not usually strong. It's not like they're training for the Hunger Games the way that ones from District 2 might be. And when we watch the video of Lucy Greybeard getting chosen, she gets up on stage and is in her colorful like rainbow dress, which is very strange for somebody from 12, as you'll remember if you watched the original Hunger Games movies with Katniss, where everybody's in like gray, kind of like ragged clothes. And she sings when she gets put up on stage, which is like really bizarre, but it's like very intriguing to everybody. And so it feels like this just like kind of tiny like ribbon of hope for Coriolanus, that he's going to have an interesting tribute at least.
Yeah. Is that the song where she's like, can't take a my charm?
I think so.
Can't take a my humor.
Yeah. Yeah.
which we'll get to her accent in a second. But there is like a snake in this scene, which is like the first snake that we see. And we see that she puts the snake down the mayor's daughter's dress. Isn't that right? Mm-hmm. And that was a real snake.
No.
Yeah. And Rachel Zegler loved it. She loved the snakes. She's like, I love all animals. And the director kept trying to like frighten her and like up the ante so that she would get scared. And she was like, I wasn't scared of any of them. And that is like a very Rachel Zegler thing to say. I'm not surprised.
Also very Lucy Gray.
Yeah. And also she was supposed to curtsy here in this scene, but she ad-libbed the bow to try and mimic Katniss's thank you for your consideration bow, which I think is in Catching Fire, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember.
It's like an iconic bow that she does. Oh, no, that's from that's from Hunger Games, I think. And I think it's interesting, Rachel was like such a fan that she did kind of add Easter eggs like that throughout to try and pay tribute to Katniss, which is cool.
That is really cool. I love that. I loved the bow too. I thought it was like very symbolic. I liked it.
What did you think of Lucy Gray's accent?
In the beginning, I really hated it. And then like in the previews especially, I was like, oh, this is going to distract me so much. But then I actually didn't mind it. Like by the time we got like halfway through the movie, I thought it was good.
I didn't mind it, but I thought it was interesting. So she has this really strong Appalachian accent for those who maybe don't remember or haven't watched it, or Appalachian if you're, actually from there. And Katniss was supposed to have this accent. That's what's so crazy to me. And if you listen to readings of Suzanne Collins reading The Hunger Games, she reads The Hunger Games in this accent.
Interesting.
And that is just mind-blowing to me, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I had this thought like towards the end of the movie. I was like, because at first I was like, maybe she got this accent from like the Covey, because she travels around with this group called the Covey and they move around. So I was like, okay, maybe that's where it comes from. But then no, everybody in 12 talks like that. And so I was like, how come Katniss and her family and Peeta, nobody talks like Gale, nobody talks like that. So then I was just like, maybe it's just been enough time that it's like worn off, but it hasn't been that long. So I don't know.
Oh, maybe. That's interesting. I don't know. Oh, maybe because this is us trying to make it work when like obviously it was an afterthought.
Yeah.
But maybe by like the time it's Katniss's time, they have been watching the Hunger Games every year. They have so much capital propaganda and media that maybe that's why their accents have changed.
Could be. Yeah.
Let's make that our headcanon so that it's not.
So it's not just like the actors not wanting to do a Southern accent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So after the reaping, Coriolanus goes home and is like lamenting to Tigris because he's so upset that he didn't get the prize and that he got the District 12 tribute. And part of that is because he's convinced that Dean Highbottom hates him and like has it out to get him, which we'll find out more about that later. But Tigris is very sympathetic and is just like, this girl is probably terrified. Like, just be the best mentor that you can be. Just like try to be sympathetic to her and like help her not feel as scared, because it must be terrifying to like get ripped out of your house and like be a child and be expected to go into the Hunger Games and travel to the capital for the first time. And so he decides to go to the train station to meet her when all the tributes get trained in. And he brings her a rose and they have this like weird kind of flirty interaction. And like you can tell that he's just like intrigued by her because she's like kind of weird and like doesn't react the way that he expected, and like eats a rose petal and is just like, she's just not what he thought.
I was listening to this other podcast called P.S. You're Wrong, and they do really good it's not movie recaps, but they'll give like their review of a movie afterwards or talk about their thoughts. And they were talking about this and they were like, Lucy Gray is like a manic pixie dream girl in this movie.
She is.
I can't unsee it now.
Yeah, no, that's actually so accurate, especially in this scene, because she's just, she's being such a little weirdo.
But I love it. It makes her so different from Katniss, because Katniss was, I saw this interview with Rachel Zegler. Katniss was like a fighter who had to perform.
Yes.
Lucy Gray was a performer who had to fight. And I just think that contrast is so interesting because like in the Hunger Games, throughout that whole thing, what Katniss struggles with is getting people to like her, commanding the stage. Like basically Peeta does everything for her and she just reacts to him. And in this, it's very interesting because Lucy Gray just commands everything. Like she is the ultimate performer. And that's just the opposite of Katniss. I love it.
Yeah, I love that explanation of the contrast between them, because that's totally right. Like, Lucy Gray is happy to perform for the cameras and be nice to people in the Capitol and like treat it as a performance, whereas that's like the only thing that Katniss won't do. Katniss like just doesn't want to lie, doesn't want to put up with it, doesn't want to like be fake, like so uninterested, even when it saves her life. So it's interesting.
It is interesting.
So he meets Lucy Gray, and the tributes get back into a different train car to get brought to wherever they're going to be kept. And at the last minute, Coriolanus jumps into the train car. I still don't really know why he does that. I guess to just like continue to have a connection with her.
Yeah.
And the tributes hate him immediately. They're like, what the fuck is this Capitol guy doing in here? Let's kill him. Because like he is part of the machine that has sent us to death, basically. And Lucy Gray reminds them that the Capitol could go after their families. And so she kind of saves him. Not kind of, she does save him in that moment, which is not the last time. And then this train car gets dumped into an enclosure at the zoo, which is not what Coriolanus thinks is going to happen, obviously. And outside the bars of the zoo are Lucky Flickerman and cameras waiting to like get to know the tributes, because this is the first year, again, where they're like trying to expose the tributes to everybody to make them likable. And Coriolanus starts panicking. And you get this a lot more in the book, where he's just like freaked out to be there. And he's like, oh no, they can see me. I'm so embarrassed. Like, what's going on? And Lucy Gray tells him to own it. And he does. And so he like holds hands with Lucy Gray and walks her up to the front of the cage and has her talk to the cameras and has her talk to the little kids and like do her thing to make everybody like her. And it pretty much works. Like, the kids love her. The parents that are at the zoo love her. The camera seems to love her. And it seems like it's going well, except some guards show up and take Coriolanus away back to the academy.
This is where I'm realizing that he must have a really strong understanding of other people. Not empathy for other people, but a strong understanding of what makes people tick. Because it's like him putting on the front of like, oh, I'm rich, like this is what I need to do to fit in with these people. And then in this, he knows immediately what to do to get Lucy Gray on his side. Is like he becomes one of the tributes basically for a second. He does something super ballsy and she kind of gains respect for him. And then he knows how to get Lucy to be like a favorite for the people who are watching at home. And I just think that's really an interesting character dynamic of his that makes sense later on too.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways he's also a performer, because he is like performing in his everyday life, pretending to be this like rich, powerful, confident guy, and he's not that. But he wants to become that. And so I think we just see them relate to each other a lot. Like, they both just kind of feel like this outsider, but they're both like very headstrong and confident in themselves. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point.
I like that.
So when he gets back to school, Dean Highbottom is very upset and tells him that he can't be a mentor because he broke the rules, which I think is like putting a student's life in danger, which is his own in this case. Except Dr. Gall, who is the head game maker, that's Viola Davis, comes in and actually says that he did a great job and that he's like doing the best job at being a mentor, and thinks that he has promise as a future game maker, and like picks his brain in front of the class about what he thinks would help the Hunger Games do better and like be more popular. And he says that he would allow betting on tributes and that he would let citizens send items and send money. Well, I guess send money for items to be able to be sent to their favorite tribute, to kind of like help them feel like they're rooting for people. And Dr. Gall is like, great, write it as a proposal. And this just like flabbergasts Dean Highbottom and everybody else, like all the other students. And one of Coriolanus's friends, Clemmy, I forget her whole name. I don't think it's Clementine, but she like gets called Clemmy in the book, is like, oh, I'll write it with him. I agree. And is like just trying to latch on.
Oh, I was so irritated. I was like, go home.
I know.
And I was just shocked that he wasn't like, no, this is for me. He was kind of just like, okay.
I know.
Like a good team player.
Weird. I think it's just his like need to be liked by the Capitol kids, the other Capitol kids, I guess.
Maybe.
Seems weird though.
It does. It does. And so then after school, Corio and Sejanus go to the zoo to bring their tributes food. It is interesting how like archaic it is. It is anyway. The whole concept of the Hunger Games is horrific. But like back in year 10, them being a spectacle where you can just go to the zoo and watch them in cages and they're starving before the Hunger Games even begin. that's really interesting to me and wild.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they go bring their tribute's food. And so Janus's tribute that he's friends with won't talk to him. And then Arachne Crane, who's a girl from school, teases her tribute with a bottle of water and with food and stuff. Like, she's being horrible. And this was like the plot twist of the century for me. Like, the tribute smashes the bottle and slits Arachne's throat and kills her.
Mm-hmm.
And then that tribute also dies for killing her. And I was like, whoa, okay, this just got real. But she deserved it, first off. And like, just the way that she was taunting her, it was a lot.
Uh-huh. Big twist.
And then after the movie, I realized that Arachne Crane is the ancestor of Seneca Crane, the game maker.
Ooh.
He's the one with the like funny beard in the first movie.
I did not put that together at all. Interesting. Okay.
Her name Arachne is based on like Greek mythology. Arachne was the one who taunted. What is her name? Doesn't matter. Anyway, it's a reference to Greek mythology, someone who taunted and then got their ass kicked for it. And that's literally what happened to her in this movie, which I think is interesting.
That is super interesting. I love when like names have deeper meanings like that. They like totally reveal it.
All of the Harry Potter names are like that. I love it.
I love it too. So then the next day, Coriolanus, everybody's kind of like shook up because of what happened at the zoo, but Coriolanus comes to school with the proposal. He like went home and wrote it after all of that happened with Arachne. And Clemmy is like, I hope, basically she's saying, I hope Dr. Gall gives us more time to write it because how could we have been expected to work last night? And Coriolanus is like, oh, I wrote it. And then she's like, okay, we'll put my name on it. And he agrees.
Oh, me in every group project ever. This is so relatable.
You're like you agree to let other people put their name on your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was like a throwback to the 40 pages I had to write for something once. And then like the 3 people in my group were like, oh yeah, so how's that coming? And I was like, it's done. But I'll put your names on it. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I feel like every group project is always heinous like that. And so they bring the proposal to Dr. Gall and Clemmy takes total credit for it. Like, she just, like, steps in front of Coriolanus and is like, I wrote the proposal, and I came up with all of this totally on my own. I can't believe that Coriolanus just lets her say that, first of all. But it turns out Dr. Gall is smarter, and she has been working in her laboratory on these genetically modified snakes that attack anything that doesn't have a familiar scent. And Dr. Gall is like, oh, well, one of my assistants accidentally tore up your proposal and put it in this tank. So if you're the one that wrote it, you can just reach in and grab it because the snakes won't get mad at you because it's your paper, right? Mm-hmm. And Clemmy has just too much pride and she's like, okay, and puts her hand in and gets bit by the snakes. And so it's obvious that it was just Coriolanus who did it.
Does she die?
I don't think so.
Okay.
In the book, at least, it's not clear in the beginning. Like, Coriolanus is like, is she going to be okay? And Dr. Gall's like, I don't know. And then they just like keep talking.
It's just like, who cares? She's a liar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, how smart, though.
Mm-hmm.
And then Corio admits that it was all his work, which is obvious at this point now.
Mm-hmm. And you can tell Dr. Gall likes him, which is like kind of funny and comes back later. And so the tributes and the mentors get a chance to walk through the arena, which I was surprised to see was an actual like concrete arena. Because in the future games, it's like very high tech and like in the woods, right? Or in different locations.
Yeah. This is like the Colosseum, you know?
Yes, very archaic. And they get a chance to like talk to their tribute and prepare for an interview because it's the first year they're going to be doing interviews with all the tributes to show the Capitol who each of them are. And during the walkthrough, bombers attack the building, which also, plot twist, to me at least. I was so surprised when this happened.
So they were like from the districts, right? Like rebels?
Yeah. There was like a big rebel bombing. I guess to try to stop the Hunger Games, I assume, because it was like the day before they were supposed to start. And one tribute, I forget which one it was. Marcus, maybe, the guy from 2, I can't remember, manages to run away. And Lucy Gray has the opportunity to run away. We can like see the other tribute run, and Lucy starts to run and then turns around because Coriolanus is pinned under a bunch of rubble, and she stays to get him out, which is very sweet.
Well, I guess she would have died anyway if she got caught afterwards, so.
Yeah.
Then Corio ends up in the hospital, and he wakes up to see Lucy Gray's interview, and she's singing, right, in this interview?
I can't remember.
I think she gets up and she sings, and
I think so too.
He's captivated by her singing.
And so is everybody. I think she gets a lot of donations. I think they show like donations or supporters or something on the screen, and it just like ticks way up for her when she's on screen. And so then, and I forget the exact order of events here because I think Coriolanus goes back to the arena at some point to like assess the situation because I think he's in just disbelief that they're still going to have the games after everything that happened between like the one tribute dying because she killed Arachne and then also the bombing. It just seems crazy they're moving forward with it, but the Capitol is like, nope, we're going to press on and we're going to make a statement. We're not going to let the rebels win. So Coriolanus visits Lucy Gray in the zoo one more time. I think he brings her some food. He also brings her rat poison and says you can like give a little bit to somebody and it will kill them, basically. So he's doing that to help her. And he also tells her that there's a collapsed area in the arena where underneath there's like some tunnels and hallways and she might be able to hide there. So he tells her to go there instead of like running to the center of the arena to try to get some of the weapons. And then we get to the games.
I was shocked like how soon the games came up.
I know.
In the movie.
I had read up until the bombing. So like when the bombing happened, I was like, what the fuck? And then the game started so quickly after that. I was just like, I had no idea where this book was going.
Yeah, the games go on anyway. Do they leave the rubble there or is it cleared away by then? Can't remember.
I think they leave some of it. Like it's like the collapsed area still there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of it is picked up enough for them to be able to like run around. So the games begin and there's like the creepy countdown, which I think happens in the later Hunger Games too. They like have the announcer countdown and then go in. And we're seeing kind of two things. So in the school like auditorium, all of Coriolanus and his classmates are sitting watching with Lucky announcing. And this is the first time they've ever had an announcer. And then we're also seeing in the arena with all the kids. And Lucy immediately runs to her District 12 partner across the arena to get him to bring him with her down underneath. And she actually succeeds in doing that. A bunch of kids immediately start fighting. Some people immediately die. And the kid that had run away, like during the bombing, is like now pinned up to some of the rubble near death. So anyway, it's a quick start.
Yeah, always is for the Hunger Games. It's the bloodbath.
Mm-hmm.
And then while they're down there, the other District 12 tribute, he has rabies. It's like very evident that he's not well because he had a bat bite. Where did he get the bite from the bat, though? I'm trying to remember.
He got the bite on the train on the way to the Capitol.
Yeah. Okay, so this is like fresh. He's got rabies and he's kind of like out of it and hallucinating and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he chases Lucy out from the underground area and Corio gets another student to send water bottles to come in. And these water bottles are not like in the Hunger Games we know where they like come in with a little parachute and it's all gentle and stuff. They come in on like a drone and they just are glass bottles, which is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
First off.
Yeah. Terrifying drones. They're like loud and they run into stuff. They don't like stop. Yeah, it's terrifying.
The glass bottles break, so nobody actually gets water, I feel like, in this entire movie, except for like one part.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the bottles crash and I'm trying to remember exactly how he dies. I don't think it like just straight up hits him and he dies, but the District 12 boy tribute does die from this.
I think he's chased Lucy up. So there's like a big pile of rubble in the middle of the arena and he chases Lucy up to the top. And then I don't know if the water bottles and the drones scare him. There was something about the water that had to do with rabies.
Oh, you're right.
And
yeah.
I forget. I don't know if it was like water makes somebody with rabies scared. I think so, yeah. And I think he falls off the pile of rubble and dies.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
So Lucy manages to get away during this scenario. And while she's kind of escaping, I think this is at this part, she put some of the rat poison in one of the water bottles that survived the drone strike. That the like kind of stronger group of kids that had taken over the center of arena had put aside. They'd like put some water aside. So she put some rat poison in there to hopefully kill off some of the sort of stronger tributes.
Mm-hmm.
It ends up not working. A different player ends up drinking it, but that's her attempt.
Lucky Flickerman is just so terrible. I love him, but he's so terrible. He's like, it's tuberculosis on legs because the tribute is like coughing, the one who goes for the water, and then she drinks the water and dies.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not who Lucy Gray was intending to kill at all, so she feels really terrible.
Mm-hmm. During the first night, Sejanus sneaks into the arena, and Dr. Gall obviously freaks out and goes to Coriolanus to say, you need to go get him. And he does.
That was wild to me. That whole thing was wild. I was like, no, do not go in the arena because you will be the first one murdered.
Mm-hmm.
You're like a huge target.
Totally. Yeah, like I could not believe that Sejanus went in there. He went in there, I think, to like make a statement because his parents are so wealthy and such a prominent part of the capital that I think he was trying to make a statement that this is like insane and get people's attention.
And that's his friend who's hanging up there, dying. I don't know if he had died yet, but...
Yeah, it's very scary and sad. And Coriolanus, I forget, I think Dr. Gall threatens him somehow or like says that she'll try to keep his tribute alive longer so he has a better shot at the Plinth Prize, basically, if he goes in and saves Sejanus. And so he does. And he basically tells Sejanus, like, you will be able to make more of an impact on the outside if you get through this and you like become part of the capital elite, basically. Like if you go into training or if you go into politics, you'll be able to actually enact change instead of just like being a rebellious teenager doing what you're doing right now. And Sejanus listens. And as they're running out of the arena, a tribute comes after Coriolanus and is chasing them. And Coriolanus turns around and kills him. I don't know that he necessarily even meant to. It was actually self-defense. But this kind of like starts the darkness that we see in Coriolanus, I think.
Yeah, definitely. That was a wild scene. And then Corio goes back to talk to Dr. Gall afterwards, and he puts a handkerchief from Lucy that she's used into the vat of snakes so that they won't attack her if they get put into the arena. So they'll like have her scent. And that was genius. Loved it.
Genius. And that's exactly what Dr. Gall does. She sends the snakes into the arena to like finish off the games. And Lucy survives. The snakes are like all over her and they're not biting her. And it is because they recognize her scent.
And she's singing and and that's how she calms the snakes. And they're all like crawling up her.
Coriolanus thinks that he's going to win the prize, obviously, because his tribute won. And he just like wants her to live. He like wants her to get sent back to 12 or to wherever and like not die in the games or not be killed afterwards. But Coriolanus gets in big trouble for cheating because they found the rat poison and they found the hanky, both of which I think had Coriolanus's initials on them. And so instead of winning and getting to stay in the capital, he gets sent to become a peacekeeper, I think in District 2, but then he ends up bribing the like people that are making the assignments to let him go to 12 so that he can see if Lucy Gray made it.
This was where I thought the movie was over. And then I was like, wait, you're telling me there's more?
Yeah, this was like end of part 1 of the movie, I feel like.
Guys, this is his buzz cut era.
Here for it.
When he's on the train on the way to District 12, he sees that Sejanus is there too. And Sejanus is coming. He wants to make a difference in the system. And so he decides to go to District 12 too. I don't know if he got assigned District 12 or if that was
I think he asked to go wherever Coriolanus was going. I'm sure he asked his dad probably. And so we just kind of see their life in 12. They're in training and they go out to bars and they just are like living this like sort of soldier lifestyle. And one night while they're out, they see Lucy Gray performing in a bar, which is like huge, obviously, because he didn't know if she even made it out. And to know that she like won and made it out in his back, like living the way that she was before, makes him feel better. And they like meet eyes in the bar. It's like actually kind of cute. But kind of while this is happening, Sejanus is off talking to some District 12 people in the corner of the bar. And this is something that we see in several scenes after this. And Coriolanus is just like suspicious and asks Sejanus about it. And he always like passes it off like it's nothing, but it comes back.
This is the part that really confused me. The peacekeepers and the citizens of District 12 are at a bar together and the peacekeepers off time, and that's normal and that's okay. And nobody's attacking the peacekeepers or like the peacekeepers aren't roughhousing with anybody. Like I'm just kind of surprised that they're able to live so peacefully. I don't think it's that way later on.
I have a hunch that it's not that way later on because of what's happening with Sejanus. Because we've only seen President Snow's Panem, and like I don't know how much changed when he became president. But I would not be surprised if this was something he instilled much more of a divide between peacekeepers and regular people. Because like even when Lucy Gray, I think, got picked as tribute in the Reaping, I think she like makes a comment to the peacekeepers, like as if she knows them. And so they must all hang out, which is weird. It's giving like local cops at the local bar, you know?
Yeah, but they're like the local cops who hate you and who will like kill you if you do something wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I agree.
So then Lucy Gray and Corio develop this friendship and then mostly romance, and they spend a lot of time together with the Covey. Can you explain the Covey to me? They're Lucy Gray's traveling group of kids who do music.
Yes. I don't know if they're all supposed to be like orphans or just like groups of families because there's kids, but I don't remember seeing parents. And yes, they make music and they travel around together. Yeah.
There's this iconic lake scene where they're swimming. It's very romantic. This is like the first time that I'm like, ooh, like I want them to get together, even though I don't want that. And I know snow is evil, but I was like, I love this. I love this for them. Fun fact, Rachel was actually clinging to Tom for dear life during this scene.
Aww.
And he said that she was basically drowning him, like he was choking. And he was like, I thought you were a strong swimmer. And she's like, I only swim when I'm getting chased.
What?
I don't know. I don't know. But she was not comfortable in that scene, even though in the editing, like,
it looks like it.
Super romantic. No, she was like pushing him under, trying to stay on top.
That's really funny. It is interesting to me that I feel like they're very not physical, except for in this scene. Like in the scene, they're like climbing on each other in the water, but like, do we even see them kiss ever?
I don't know if they ever did.
Yeah. So it is a romance, but it's weird. It's like it's a weird dynamic.
Maybe they kissed. Wait, I feel like they did while she was singing or something. I don't know.
If they did, I feel like it was like once.
Yeah, it wasn't major.
And we'll get to this at the end, but it was interesting to me that like this love is supposed to be like his origin story of being evil. Like I was expecting this to be like deep, insane, so obsessed with each other, so in love with each other, sort of a la the Peeta, Katniss, Gale triangle like intensity. And then like she was gonna get killed or something unfairly, like by the Capitol or something. I thought there was gonna be like something that was like this was taken away from him and that's what turned him evil, and that's like not actually how this happened.
I thought so too. Instead, it's more like Lucy Gray is a performer and she does know how to work a crowd and work people, and there's a slyness to her, and I'm just so curious, especially we can talk about it later, but I'm so curious if she ever actually had feelings for him or if she did like a little bit but really played them up to survive. Yeah, this romance is like not really real because I don't even think Corio loves anyone more than he loves himself.
Interesting. I never thought about her feelings. Okay, well, yeah, we'll talk about it at the end. One night we see Coriolanus see Sejanus going to the back of a bar with some of the District 12 citizens, and in the end, Coriolanus finds out that Sejanus is going to help them escape the district, which is like high treason, and they get into a big argument about it, and Coriolanus ends up shooting the mayor's daughter.
Yeah.
Which I forget exactly the series of events. There's something to do with like the mayor's daughter now dates Lucy Gray's ex, and the mayor's daughter hates Lucy Gray, and that's why Lucy Gray put the snake in her back at the reaping, because I think the intention was supposed to be that like her father got Lucy Gray chosen as the tribute. And so I don't know why Coriolanus ends up shooting her. I know it made sense in the moment, but I don't remember exactly.
And like Lucy Gray comes in and her ex is like, oh yeah, Lucy Gray is coming with us too.
That's what it is.
And then I think the mayor's daughter is like,
starts like threatening the plan, I think, and then Coriolanus kills her. Yikes.
Also, I was like, was Lucy Gray in on them leaving? And that's what makes me think, okay, she is like maybe more, like, did she just waltz in and go, oh, and then her ex is like, yeah, you're coming with us. And she was like, okay. Is she like innocent like that? Or has she been secretly planning this the whole time too, that she's going to be getting out with them?
And she wasn't going to tell him.
She knows she's not going to see Snow, but then he gets in on the secret, and yeah.
Interesting. I never thought about it like that.
I was confused.
That might be right.
Yeah, like she might not have feelings for him after all. Maybe in the same way that he's self-interested, like her feelings are self-interested.
Totally.
You know, but she'll leave him at the drop of a hat just like he would leave her.
Interesting.
This is why I wanted to talk about this movie. There's like so many layers.
Yeah. So in the end, what happens is a couple of things. One, because Coriolanus killed this girl, and I think they maybe kill another guy that was there. One of, I think, Sejanus' friends that is a District 12 guy is charged with hiding the guns. And so that's an important piece. The second important piece is that I think the next day, Coriolanus records Sejanus telling him about the plan and like justifying the plan that he was going to help them. And he sends the recording with a batch of mockingjays to Dr. Gall.
I love that Mockingjays come back up.
Me too.
And that they're the ones that are recording. Like, because we've heard about this and that they were used for spying, but this is us seeing it in action.
Yeah, me too. I really liked when I realized that's what was happening. I was like, oh, this is good.
Oh, wait, those weren't Mockingjays. Sorry, they were Jabberjays.
Jabberjays. That's what it was. Yeah.
They were the original. Yeah.
Yeah. And part of me is like, why did Coriolanus do that when like the plan got squashed and like people were killed? But then part of me is like, no, if like they're actually killing people that even know of plans like this, then I kind of understand his, especially like his self-interested nature being like, I need recording and proof that like I'm on the right side of this. I'm not on Sejanus's team. And as a result of the recording, which I think they play the recording at like a little like town, they call everybody together in like the town square at the hanging tree, and they hang 2 of the people involved and Sejanus.
It was so sad. This part of the movie, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. He just killed his best friend.
I know. It made me really sad. And because of everything that's going on, Sejanus is obviously super upset. Or not Sejanus, sorry. Coriolanus is super upset about Sejanus, even though it was him. But, like, I get it.
Why do all their names end in anus?
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I hate it.
Like, she did not think this through.
Or she did, and it's weird.
Okay, anyway, sorry.
That's okay. And so Coriolanus and Lucy Gray decide to run away together because Lucy Gray says, well, we can still leave. And Coriolanus is freaked out by the fact that he's the one that actually killed the mayor's daughter. The guns are out there somewhere. He didn't destroy them himself, so he doesn't really know if like that proof could be found one day. And to him, that has totally ruined his chances of ever going back to the Capitol or having a political career. And he does have feelings for Lucy Gray, and she was going to run away anyway, so why don't they just do it together? And so Lucy tells him to meet him at the hanging tree the next morning, and they're going to run away together. And then we get to the end, which is a bizarre ending. So this is what happens, and then we can talk about kind of what we think about it. So as they're running away, they make a stop at a cabin in the woods, and they find under the floorboards of the cabins the guns. We kind of find out that Lucy Gray and like those people from District 12 were friends, and this is a place they would sometimes go, so it makes sense that that's where he would have hidden them. And they have this conversation when he finds the guns, where Corio is like, I could go back because this is the last piece of evidence like against me that I did anything wrong, and there would be no loose ends. And then Lucy says, except for me, I would be the loose end. And they just kind of look at each other. And I was like, oh no, this is so bad. And Lucy says she's going to go gather some food for them and then doesn't come back.
Isn't she going to go pick Katniss?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And like a little bit earlier when they were having their romance kind of playful time in this, she was like, oh yeah, the Katniss isn't ready yet, which is like a great line for the future of the series too. But then I was like, is the Katniss still not ready? And she's going to go pick the Katniss? Maybe by now it is ready, but I just thought that was kind of interesting because I'm trying to figure out if Lucy knows right here, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and we kind of in that scene when they were by the lake, Lucy talks about imagining a life like totally off the grid, outside of Panem, like living on land and like catching their own food and stuff. And you can tell Coriolanus is like not into it.
He's
but
like,
that's
gross.
what she imagines. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think it wasn't until he thought he had no other choice that he was like, yes, I'll come with you. And then once he did have another choice, I think it was very knowing between the two of them, like what was going to happen. And so she goes to pick some Katniss.
Oh, and there's a huge part too that we missed. As they're walking to the cabin, he makes this huge blunder, this terrible blunder. He's like, yeah, I've murdered 3 people or something like that. Because I think she's talking about who she killed in the arena. And he says 3. And she's like, 3? Who's the third? Because she only knows of like the 2, the mayor's daughter and then the person in the arena that he killed. He, instead of being like, oh, I consider Sejanus on me because that was my friend. Or like he could have said so many other things. But he says, I was talking about my old self. I killed him. I was like, boy, bye.
Yeah, I know. That was cringe. I hated it.
I think that was the moment that Lucy Gray was like,
something's up. Which, do you think he meant Sejanus? I think he meant Sejanus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. He was like, yeah, I've killed 3 now. And then Lucy Gray was like, hold up.
Okay. So then Lucy Gray doesn't come back. Coriolanus like knows something is up and he runs out of the cabin and is like calling for her and he's like running around the woods looking for her, but he's also holding the gun. And in this like really intense, it's not a chase, but intense like frantic running around the woods, and there's jabberjays all around and you can hear her singing, I think, in the jabberjays. And so it's like she was there, she's not still there. He like sees something in the trees and we think we see maybe it's her running, but we don't actually know. And he shoots in that direction. So I think he's like kind of startled, but also maybe it's because it's her. I don't know. And that's it. He like shoots into the woods. And then we cut to him basically going, he dumps the gun in the river and then basically goes back to his old life.
Do you remember he's in the woods and he's looking for her and he finds his scarf, which was his mother's scarf, I think, that he had given her. And he sees it in the woods. He goes to pick it up and a snake comes out and bites him.
I forgot about that.
He's like, she trapped me.
You're right.
And who knows if she actually did or not. It could have just been like a coincidence. She dropped the scarf and there was a snake. But I don't think so. And he's so pissed.
That's so true. I totally forgot that happened.
He just gets unhinged and he's like shooting in the sky at the Mockingjays. And Oscar worthy. It was so good. He was so scary in that scene. And that's where I was like, oh, this is President Snow. Like, I see.
There he is.
And I remember he said something like, after all that I've done for you, you would do this to me? And I was like, oh, like, I see. This is transactional now, you know?
Yeah, she tried to kill him with a poisonous snake. And now he has no feelings left.
Yeah, and I don't even know if he ever did. Yeah, what did you think of this scene?
I don't know what to think. It left me very confused. Like, when we left, left the movie, I was telling Brian, I wish there had been like a couple more lines of dialogue in their conversation. But now that I'm thinking back on it, I don't know if that would have made it any different. It just felt weird the way they left it. And I think that's like on purpose. Like, I think it's supposed to just like make you feel weird and unsure of exactly what happened or what was ever true. Yeah. So I don't know.
Do you think she's alive or do you think she's dead?
No, I think she's dead.
Okay. I think she's alive.
Oh.
I think she got away.
I think she maybe got away, but I think if she had been alive, because like part of me was like racking my brain to be like, does she go to like 13? Isn't that where Katniss, like where all there's like the underground rebel society thing?
Yeah. Or like, did she start 13 or like, I don't know.
Right. That's like where my brain went initially. But then I'm like, I think we would have known that. But maybe we wouldn't have. I don't know. Because, like, if Snow is still alive as the president, then, like, she could have still been alive helping run that operation.
Or maybe she just lived in hiding and, like, lived off the land like she wanted to. I don't know. And then people think that Katniss is related to her in some way because how did Katniss know all of her songs?
Yeah.
I think I read online that Maud Ivory, one of the Covey girls, is possibly Katniss's grandma or great-grandma or something.
I like that. I figured it has to be some way intertwined with the Covey. Katniss has to be because of the songs.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I want to know what you guys think. Did Lucy Gray die?
Yeah, I would love to know what you guys think. And did he shoot her?
Because maybe she did get shot, but she just survived it. But I'm like, the chances of him actually hitting her when he was...
I think low.
Although he did shoot just like all over, so... It was good, though. I liked it. I liked not knowing.
So after Coriolanus dumps the guns back into the river, he goes back to 12. And he had previously been offered to go to, I think it was officer training in District 2. And he gets back in time to actually go to that. And so he goes. But instead of going, he actually gets sent to the Capitol and is brought to see Dr. Gall. And Dr. Gall says, I think you have a real knack for this. I think you're super talented. I want you to be my apprentice. Like, I want you to study under me and become a game maker, basically.
Do we know if he ever became a game maker before he was president?
I don't know, actually.
So then Corio goes to see Dean Highbottom, that's Peter Dinklage, the game maker, who admits that he used to be best friends with Corio's dad, who actually had the idea for the Hunger Games originally. Now it's all making sense. Dean Highbottom, I think he was drunk or something. He was like, yeah, it was just like a drunken idea. I actually think Dean Highbottom was the one who came up with it. Yeah. Dean Highbottom was drunk and he was like, oh, I know how we keep the districts in line. We have them kill each other and make it a spectacle or whatever. He was just joking. He was just drunk and just saying something shitty. And then Corio's dad was like, oh, wait, that's actually a good idea. And so he went and made that happen. And so Dean Highbottom hates the Hunger Games. He hates what has become of his stupid idea that he said while he was drunk. And he resents Corio because of his dad. This part, I'm like, how was this premeditated? I don't know. But Corio gives Dean Highbottom drugs because he's like addicted to morphling, I think is what it's called in the Hunger Games. And there's rat poison in it, we are left to assume, and he dies. I found out this like really funny thing about this scene. Tom Blyth's mom watched this scene and she said, how dare you? Because she has this huge crush on Peter Dinklage. And she was like actually livid with him. She was like, I cannot believe that you killed Peter Dinklage.
That's funny.
I thought that was so cute.
Oh, that is cute. Yeah, it was a big move. And I think during that scene, it's either during that scene or right after, but I think it's during that scene that Peter Dinklage, Dean Highbottom, is the one that tells Coriolanus that he is going to be the heir to the Plinth fortune for being Sejanus's best friend, even though he was a like traitor. That Sejanus's parents like really respect him and care about him for like saving their son during the games and then being his best friend, because nobody knows that Coriolanus is the one that reported him.
Oh, that makes me so sick. Like when I saw that, I was just like, no. He spent his whole life being taken care of by Sejanus's family and not feeling guilty about it, not telling them because he got his fortune. And then he goes back to Grandmam's place and Tigris is there. And I think he asks Tigris how he looks. And this, I think, is maybe a little bit further in time or maybe like on his first day as Dr. Gall's apprentice, I think. And he's getting dressed and he comes out and says, how do I look? And Tigris says, just like your father, Coriolanus. And you can tell she's like kind of scared of him. Yeah.
Sad.
We get Donald Sutherland's voice at the very end of the movie. And I want to say he does that quote that's like,
it's like the things that we love are the things that destroy us or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. Oof. It was such a good movie, such a good story. It's not what I was expecting. Like I said, I think I was expecting more of like Lucy Gray to get like unfairly taken from him. But instead it just was like Coriolanus became who he always was going to become despite caring about Lucy.
Yeah.
And he just like chose, I feel like, to go back to the Capitol and be that person instead of stay with Lucy and be that person. So, and I think they both knew it. I think they both knew that that was going to happen. Obviously, that's why she ran away. So it was interesting. And
I love how it sets up how he's so triggered by Katniss from the very beginning. It's her name. It's that she's a girl from District 12. It's that she's a little rebellious. And the Mockingjay pin that she wears in the first games, he's like, because he hates Mockingjays now. And he associates them with Lucy Gray. I thought it was really good. I loved it. I'm so glad we got to talk about it.
Me too. I would love to know your guys' thoughts. If you watched the movie or if you read the book, what do you think? Especially this, I had never thought about this. Like, did Lucy ever love him? Did he ever love Lucy? Like, what do you guys think? I would love to know.
Yeah. Is she dead? Is she related directly to Katniss? Or is it Maude Ivory who is? Or nobody, and it's just a coincidence because they're from District 12 and things get passed along.
I wonder if Suzanne Collins has done an interview about this. Like, I wonder if she has said what she thinks. Probably not, but...
I bet she's intentionally left it open-ended, but I would love to know what she thinks. Or if she even knows, because sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're like, I love that it could go either way, and I want to keep it that way. I don't know. I want her to write more books. I love The Hunger Games. She's such a good writer, and... it just, like, it deserves more.
We want Tigris. Give me Tigris' story. Even just all of it. Like, even the way that they went from the mentors being the students to the mentors being the winners from that district and having, like, a winner's circle neighborhood in every district. Like, just all of that. I would love to just, like, see the evolution of it.
And I bet a lot of those were Snow's ideas.
And him as Dr. Gall's apprentice. I'm just intrigued by all of it. It's such a fun, like, world.
Yeah. I'm so glad our Hunger Games era is back. I saw this other thing that was like, all right, us 2013 Tumblr girls are back.
I know.
I remember the Hunger Games being so popular on Tumblr in 2013.
Yeah. and you were a big Tumblr girly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, that was so fun.
We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.